However, a lot of people see these girls and think they're still little. They're not. Nika is a fully grown adult female. It's just Ngozi is quite a large female. She's very tall, just like people. They come in different shapes and sizes. So Ngozi and Nika, they're both fully mature. Hello, girl. Oh, good. And both of them, Nika is kind of like a love-struck teenager. She loves Milani. She loves looking at him, Charlie here, being near him, and so she has attempted breeding with him, soliciting him, and she's been successful. He's shown interest in her when Gozi's not in that time of the month and not interested. So Gozi usually, this is the week that's just passed where she is interested in him. And then she kind of sort of relaxes, and then Nika finds that that's her opportunity to get close to her favorite guy. And it's interesting because he came from, I'm not sure if you spoke much about Zulani's history, but I'm sure all of you know that Charles passed away, and this is his replacement. And Zulani actually is the grandson of our Josephine. And we see a lot of similarities between him and her. They're smart. He's very clever. And we see a lot of instances where we're like, that's Josephine. That's her. Even though they never actually met or interacted, you can definitely see the genetic component there. However, his background is not a typical blackback turning into a silverback's social learning. So, for example, our boys out here, they stayed within the family group for as long as possible. Siddiqui was in the family till he was 11. Nasser, at the time, once Siddiqui was ready to leave the group, Nasser also had to leave the group because we knew we wanted to keep them together as a bachelor pair. And so Nasser was about 6 years old. So, which is a little bit on the young side now. However, he was always around the family. He was always around the girls, even though they were separate. So they still were able to view and see different components of the girls. Whereas Walani, he had a similar situation where he was the youngest of 3 brothers. He was about 4.5, 5 years old, so that is considerably young to pull from a family dynamic. And he went with his 2 older brothers to Granby Zoo. And in that component, in that location, there were no females, there was no family troop that they could watch or observe. So he's basically been on his own since he was about 4 or 5 years old. And so his learned socialization is from being in a bachelor group, which was fine when he was just with his brothers, so they got along well. However, his oldest brother at the time, at Granby about 10 years ago, got sick, passed away very suddenly. He had an acute bout of pneumonia. And so it just left him and his middle brother there. And at Granby Zoo, they wanted to add some males to they wanted to add some guys to their group. However, the ones that were available were another adult bachelor pair from the US that joined him. And so by this time, him and his brother Jawara were of maturity, so they were hormonal. And so you could imagine having a hormonal bachelor pair. Oh, Harley! You're so daring. Oh, sorry. Having very good, Zulani. What a good boy. Having that sort of male testosterone energy, and then you have a similar duo of similar age and hormone level now getting put together. And in the world of gorillas, even bachelor groups, there's always a leader and there's always subordinates. And so going from a 2 and a 2 where one's the boss, you can imagine that now those guys are battling or fighting or trying to sort it out. So he spent the last 10 years really on defense mode, where always had, checking on his back. And actually, from what his keeper tells, he was a bit of the troublemaker. So he would like to, put everybody in their place so that they knew he's the boss. And his older brother, Jawara, would come along. He was the muscles, and he'd come along and make sure that lasted and take care of him that way. But he was pretty confident he was the dominant male. However, it took 10 years to get to that point, and a lot of battle scars and wounds. So a bachelor group, and you can see this with our bachelor group in there, they don't really like being close to each other. You can see the girls, family unit, they really like being connected and near each other. But in a bachelor group, they will cohabitate together. They will be as far apart as possible and keeping their eye on the others of where they are. So for him, having gorillas nearby or touching was a very novel experience for him. He was very cautious, scared, because his history is that whenever there was a gorilla that close,